Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. When you talk about breakout seasons in the NFL, you usually think of the household names, the first-round picks who were always destined for greatness, the five-star recruits who've been followed since high school, or the quarterbacks who dominate every headline. But every once in a while, there's a story that reminds fans why football is as much about perseverance and mentorship as it is about raw talent. That's exactly what's happening in Washington, where Luke McCaffrey has quietly, yet emphatically, become one of the most intriguing young wide receivers in the league. The Commanders, once searching for a spark amid injuries and inconsistency, have found an unexpected gem in their 2024 third-round pick. And according to McCaffrey himself, part of his rapid rise this season comes from an off-season connection that very few people saw coming. Luke McCaffrey entered his second year in the NFL with plenty to prove. His rookie season was a mixed bag, flashes of potential here and there, a few promising moments in the preseason, and glimpses of chemistry with then-rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels. But the transition from college to the pros is never simple, even for someone with the McCaffrey name. Luke, the younger brother of 49ers superstar Christian McCaffrey, had already switched positions in college, transforming from a quarterback at Nebraska into a receiver at Rice. That kind of positional shift demands patience, humility, and an almost obsessive drive to improve, especially in a league where every detail, every step, every read, every inch of separation can define a career. So as Washington entered this season dealing with injuries to key playmakers like Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, the door swung wide open for McCaffrey. The Commanders didn't have much choice but to lean on the young wideout, and what followed has been nothing short of a revelation. McCaffrey's game suddenly looked sharper, faster, and far more polished than what anyone had seen from him as a rookie. He was creating separation with refined footwork, showing an impressive ability to track deep passes through contact, and consistently finding soft spots in defensive zones. His connection with Jayden Daniels, who himself is emerging as one of the league's most dynamic young quarterbacks, started to click in real time, and offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury began dialing up plays specifically to take advantage of McCaffrey's newfound precision. But what makes this leap so fascinating isn't just the statistical improvement. It's the story behind the scenes, the quiet off-season mentorship that shaped it. During the summer, McCaffrey spent time training in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he crossed paths with veteran wide receiver Adam Thielen. Yes, that Adam Thielen, the undrafted Minnesota Vikings legend turned Carolina Panthers veteran, known for his elite route running and meticulous attention to detail. McCaffrey credits Thielen with helping him elevate not just his technique, but his overall understanding of the craft of playing receiver. As McCaffrey put it, he's an incredible person. It was super nice of him to help me out when I was in Charlotte training. He let me come to his house and watch him throw and stuff, so I could get a feel. It's the kind of mentorship story that rarely makes headlines, but often defines a player's trajectory. Thielen, a two-time Pro Bowler, built his career on mastering the nuances of route running, turning himself from a small-school undrafted longshot into one of the most respected technicians in the game. His game has always been about subtlety, the shoulder feints, the deceptive releases, the ability to read coverage and manipulate defenders in space. For a young receiver like McCaffrey, who shares some of those same natural instincts but needed refinement, spending time with Thielen was like attending a masterclass in professional wide receiver play. And perhaps what made that mentorship even more special was its organic nature. Adam Thielen never played with Christian McCaffrey during his time in Carolina. The elder McCaffrey had already been traded to the 49ers by the time Thielen joined the Panthers. But the NFL fraternity is small, and connections happen in unexpected ways. It's not hard to imagine a message being exchanged between the McCaffrey brothers, a simple introduction that led to Luke knocking on Thielen's door, hungry to learn. The two would meet, study film, run drills, and talk about what it means to truly prepare like a professional. For Thielen, it was an opportunity to pass down knowledge that had defined his career. For Luke, it was a chance to absorb every detail and bring that wisdom into his own path with Washington. Fast forward to the present, and the results are undeniable. Luke McCaffrey doesn't just look like a different player. He looks like someone who belongs in the upper tier of NFL slot receivers. His timing with Daniels has become almost instinctual. His ability to adjust routes on the fly, to mirror defensive leverage, and to secure tough catches in traffic has transformed the Commanders' offensive rhythm. Kingsbury's system, known for its emphasis on space and timing, seems tailor-made for a player like McCaffrey. And with McLaurin and Brown sidelined for stretches, Luke has shouldered a load that few expected him to handle this early in his career. Of course, none of this diminishes McCaffrey's own relentless drive. His family is known for their work ethic. His father, Ed McCaffrey, was a Super Bowl-winning receiver with the Denver Broncos, and Christian McCaffrey has built a Hall of Fame-caliber career on preparation and attention to detail. Luke's path, though, is his own. He wasn't a first-rounder. He wasn't an immediate star. He's had to carve his place through adaptability and grit, and that's what makes his breakout so compelling. You can see it in how he runs every route like it's the most important play of the game, how he celebrates his teammates' success, and how he's become one of the league's most dangerous kick returners on top of his receiving duties. The Commanders, for their part, couldn't be happier. They've watched McCaffrey evolve from a developmental project into a genuine weapon. Cliff Kingsbury has openly praised his growth, highlighting how Luke's preparation and versatility have allowed the offense to stay dynamic even through injuries. Jaden Daniels, ever the poised leader, has built a rapport with McCaffrey that seems to grow every week. The trust between the two, especially on third downs and in red zone situations, has been a key storyline for Washington's offensive resurgence. It's not flashy, but it's effective, and it's built on the kind of chemistry that's forged in extra reps and quiet film sessions long after practice ends. But beyond the stats and highlight plays, there's a deeper resonance to McCaffrey's story, a reminder that mentorship matters in the NFL. It's easy to get lost in the modern obsession with analytics, measurables, and combined results. Yet time and again, we see how much difference it makes when veterans take the time to guide the next generation. Adam Thielen didn't have to open his home or share his secrets, but he did. And in doing so, he may have helped launch another McCaffrey into NFL prominence. That's the beauty of the league. The passing of knowledge, the quiet lineage of learning that stretches from one era to the next. For McCaffrey, this season feels like the beginning of something much bigger. When Washington's receiving core is finally back to full health, there's no scenario where he fades into the background. He's earned his place, not as a temporary replacement, but as a permanent part of the Commanders' offensive identity. Kingsbury's playbook has room for his versatility, and Daniels clearly trusts him in pressure moments. Add in his impact on special teams, and it's clear McCaffrey is becoming one of those indispensable players every successful team needs, the kind who might not dominate the headlines every week, but who makes winning plays when it matters most. And years from now, when McCaffrey reflects on this phase of his career, the moment when promise turned into production, there's little doubt he'll look back to those off-season days in Charlotte as a turning point. The sessions with Thielen weren't just workouts. They were lessons in professionalism, precision, and the art of becoming elite. Every step he takes on the field now carries traces of that mentorship, layered atop his own relentless pursuit of excellence. That's how careers are built in the NFL, not just through talent, but through guidance, grit, and an unshakable willingness to learn. Luke McCaffrey embodies all of that right now. And as the Commanders continue to navigate a season full of ups and downs, one thing has become crystal clear. The kid from Rice, who once switched positions just to chase his dream, isn't just surviving in the league anymore. He's thriving. And if this trajectory continues, the league may soon be talking about another McCaffrey, one whose name is beginning to carry its own kind of weight in the nation's capital. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Terry McLaurin, the star wide receiver of the Washington Commanders, has finally broken his silence. And let me tell you, the football world is buzzing with speculation and shockwaves right now. Sources close to McLaurin suggest that his comments are not just a casual venting session or the usual locker room frustration spilling into the media, but a candid, raw, and deeply personal declaration that could have massive implications for the future of the Commanders franchise. Imagine the scene. Terry McLaurin, one of the most talented and reliable wideouts in the league, sitting down, probably with a mic in front of him or a phone recording him, and saying outright that no one on the roster wants a certain player to return. That is a bombshell in the NFL, a league where loyalty, grudges, and locker room chemistry are often kept behind closed doors. And yet here it is, on full display for the world to see. And the name, of course, the man at the center of this swirling storm, is none other than Carson Wentz, the quarterback whose tenure with Washington has been a roller coaster of high expectations and dramatic disappointments. A player who was once heralded as a savior of the franchise and now, at least according to McLaurin, seems to be persona non grata among the team's core leaders. This revelation immediately sends us spiraling into speculation mode. If Terry McLaurin is saying that no one wants him back, we're not talking about a small group of disgruntled players or a few casual complaints here and there. McLaurin, who has been described by teammates and coaches alike as not only supremely talented, but also outspoken when it matters, seems to be voicing what could be a consensus opinion in the locker room. And it raises so many questions about the dynamics behind the scenes. Was this tension bubbling quietly over months, ignored by management, only to erupt now in one of the most dramatic statements of the NFL offseason? Or is this McLaurin using his platform to nudge the front office into making a decision that perhaps they've been hesitant to face? Either way, it's a high-stakes game, and the stakes are huge because we're talking about the relationship between the team's star receiver and a quarterback who was once supposed to lead the franchise into a new era. The implications are seismic, not just for the roster, but for the team culture, the coaching staff, and ultimately the fan base that has been enduring the ups and downs of Washington football for decades. Now, let's unpack what McLaurin's statement really means in the context of NFL locker room politics. The Commanders have been through a lot of turbulence in recent seasons, coaching changes, roster shakeups, and a quarterback carousel that has left fans scratching their heads. Terry McLaurin, however, has been a constant, a beacon of consistency in a sea of uncertainty. For him to openly suggest that no one wants Wentz back is more than a simple opinion. It's a narrative shift. It reframes the conversation from, maybe this player can still turn things around, to the team chemistry is so fractured that his presence is actively undesirable. Think about the ripple effects. Teammates hearing this, agents taking notes, rival franchises circling, and the media pouncing. Suddenly, what might have been a quiet decision about contracts or trades becomes a headline-grabbing saga, a story that sports talk shows will dissect for weeks, if not months. And that's exactly the kind of drama the NFL thrives on. The whispers in the locker room becoming a public frenzy, and Terry McLaurin, wittingly or not, is the spark that ignites it. Of course, McLaurin's history with the team adds layers to this revelation. He's been with the Commanders long enough to know the culture, the personalities, and the unspoken rules of the locker room. His rise from a second-round pick to a dominant force in the NFL has been impressive, but it has also positioned him as a leader, someone whose voice carries weight. When he talks, teammates listen, and when he speaks to the media, or in this case, breaks his silence in a very pointed manner, it's rarely just hot air. The timing, too, is worth noting. We are deep into the off-season, a period when roster decisions, trade talks, and contract negotiations are already creating a frenzy behind the scenes. McLaurin's comments act as both a pressure valve and a magnifying glass, bringing into focus tensions that might have been simmering quietly. And the speculation that immediately follows is unavoidable. Is this a calculated move to force Wentz out, or is it a genuine expression of frustration that reflects the broader sentiment in the locker room? Either interpretation paints a dramatic picture of a team at a crossroads. And the fan reaction? Oh, it's explosive. Social media platforms are ablaze with debates, memes, and takeovers from both sides. On one hand, you have diehard McLaurin supporters praising him for his honesty, his courage to speak up, and his commitment to a winning culture. On the other hand, there's a faction of fans who see this as a divisive, perhaps even disrespectful, public airing of internal grievances that should have stayed behind closed doors. The media, of course, is having a field day, parsing every word, analyzing every potential implication, and predicting the domino effect this could have on the Commanders' strategy for the coming season. Will Wentz be traded? Will the front office take a hard stance and publicly reaffirm their support for him? Or will this be the tipping point that finally reshapes the team's roster in a major way? All of these questions swirl in the wake of McLaurin's statement, making it clear that this is not just a simple rumor. It's a narrative that could define the Commanders' offseason and perhaps their next several seasons. But let's take a moment to consider the psychology behind McLaurin's revelation. Athletes, particularly in high-pressure environments like the NFL, often have to balance personal ambition with team loyalty, media perception, and long-term career strategy. Speaking out in the way that McLaurin has is risky. It could alienate certain teammates, put him at odds with management, or even influence how other teams perceive his leadership style. Yet, it also positions him as someone unwilling to compromise on the principle of team cohesion and competitive integrity. In other words, McLaurin is signaling that he values the collective success of the Commanders over individual relationships, even if it means creating headlines and stirring controversy. This is not a small thing. Leadership in professional sports is complicated, often invisible, and rarely acknowledged publicly. When a star player takes such a bold stance, it reverberates far beyond the locker room, affecting negotiations, team morale, and even fan expectations in profound ways. And let's not forget the human element. Beyond the stats, the plays, the contracts, and the headlines, these are people with complex relationships and emotions. Wentz, presumably, is aware of the murmurs and whispers surrounding his position, and now that McLaurin has made the sentiment public, he's facing not just professional scrutiny, but personal disappointment. How does a quarterback navigate that? How does a team reconcile talent with fractured relationships? These are the behind-the-scenes stories that fans rarely see, but which ultimately define the success or failure of an NFL franchise. In many ways, McLaurin's statement acts as a window into these dynamics, revealing that football is not just about XS and OS, but about trust, respect, and the fragile alchemy that makes a team work or crumble together. The rumor mill is now operating at full speed. Trade speculations, possible free agent acquisitions, and coaching decisions are all being discussed in every sports podcast, YouTube channel, and social media feed. Analysts are weighing McLaurin's credibility, his influence on the locker room, and the likelihood that Wentz will be affected by this revelation. There's talk of a potential trade, discussions about drafting a new quarterback, and even whispers that the front office might intervene to repair relationships that have clearly frayed. All of this is being fueled, of course, by the simple fact that a star player has publicly stated what many had suspected privately, that the locker room does not want a particular player to return. That alone is a seismic shift in narrative, because while fans and media often debate performance stats, internal team dynamics are usually guarded secrets. McLaurin just peeled back the curtain, and the result is an explosion of speculation, drama, and intrigue that promises to dominate headlines for weeks. So here we are, in the thick of the offseason, with Terry McLaurin's words echoing through the football world. No one on the roster wants him back. Whether you read it as a rallying cry, a warning, or a prelude to major roster upheaval, the statement has all the ingredients of a saga that could define Washington Commanders football for years to come. The fallout, both immediate and long-term, will depend on how the team responds, how Wentz handles the pressure, and whether McLaurin's influence shifts the course of the franchise. One thing is certain, this is more than just a rumor. It's a revelation, a story, and perhaps the opening chapter of a dramatic new era in Washington football. Fans will be watching, analysts will be debating, and the league will be paying close attention, because when a player of McLaurin's caliber speaks so openly, it's impossible to ignore. The Commanders now find themselves at a crossroads, and the direction they choose could reshape everything, from team chemistry to public perception, and perhaps even the legacy of the players involved. Terry McLaurin has broken his silence, and in doing so, he's lit a fuse that could have explosive consequences for the franchise. As we wait to see how this drama unfolds, one thing is clear. The NFL offseason just got a whole lot more interesting, and the story of McLaurin and Wentz is far from over. The locker room whispers have become a roar, and everyone is listening. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.